But anyway, so my name is Stefano Gioia. I'm working as one of the WebRTC specialists for Oracle in EMEA. And today I'm going to talk about running WebRTC applications on non-WebRTC devices. So let's start. Let's get familiar with this. That's okay, not a problem. So here's my agenda. We'll take about a little bit of overview about what is a non-WebRTC device and who cares or why we should care about WebRTC devices. We'll have a little bit about challenges, hurdles, stumbling blocks, anyone facing these kind of problems. And then we will see if we as an industry can do something. So I'm not going to talk about any Oracle products, so relax. Yeah! I'm just talking about what is a non-WebRTC devices. So most of the people think that a WebRTC device might be mobile phones. Some of the people thinking that a WebRTC devices might be a tablet. I think personally that those devices are non-WebRTC devices, but there is more. Most of the people are concentrated and focused on mobile devices. But I do believe that it's more like a combination of Android devices or Raspberry Pi, just for an example, or any other devices that does not have a browsers, okay? If you think about what we can do with devices, is amazing. There are people who actually combine Android devices and Raspberry Pi to control machines. There are people who actually combine drones and WebRTC in order to control via browser how a drones can landing and moving right or left. Many different things. There are people who are thinking about using television and set-top boxes as WebRTC devices. I don't know how the people will going to use WebRTC devices in the next 5 years. He knows, but probably most of the people will going to use so many different devices, not only mobile phones. Forget about mobile phones, that's more, okay? And I think that coming back to the discussion of the IoT, here is an example of IoT, let's see. Oh, it's working. Brilliant. So I think that if we combine sensor, if we combine items like that have a screens, that might have a camera, that might have a microphones, with WebRTC, there's more things that we can do it. Dean was talking about the microphone that can be used in a way that's can spot audios based on my locations. I'm thinking about people who have problems with eyes, who can't see or people can't hear, and how WebRTC can help him. I see the combination of a small device like Raspberry Pi be managing a robot like in this way. I think about kiosk in the airport. I think about so many different devices that can run WebRTC in many different ways that as of today, we don't know. What I know is that for sure in the next 5 years, someone will come out with some nice ideas that today we don't have it. And I like to think that WebRTC is like, as a technology, it's like a car. There is so many things that you can do with a car. You can drive your kids from home to the school. You can start your own transportation business, or you can race. It depends on you, right? And with IoT devices and WebRTC, nobody knows what we're going to do. But it will happen. So you might say, okay, we got it. So what? What's your point? My point is that when you want to thinking about what we can do to run WebRTC on non-WebRTC devices, that might be some kind of a problems. Problems, hurdles that with good people and good willingness we can solve. The fact that we have some of the problems like codec, VP8, H.264, VP9, H.264, XYZ, you name it, is not a stop to develop and implement WebRTC applications. We might have devices problems, network support. We have so many different problems, hurdles, but we can solve it. The industry can solve it. So let's have a look at what kind of problems or hurdles we might have. Battery usage on our devices. I'm thinking about mobile phones and devices that not support hardware decoding that will drain the juice of your battery and you're running out of juice in a matter of seconds. I'm thinking about so many different devices. I have an iPhone here, somewhere, here. I have this kind of screens. If I'm going to use an HTC mobile devices, they have a different screens. If I'm going to use, for example, a different device like a tablet, I will have a different screens, different camera, so there will be a problem of not the coding option that I'm going to use, but an adaptation of the videos. I might be able to adapt some of the videos to my devices. There is a platform diversity. Some devices are more powerful than others. I can use an HD videos in one device, but it's not sure that the other devices will support it. How to handle notifications? If I'm going to implement a WebRTC application by using a browser, how can I manage its notifications coming from other endpoints? So those kind of problems can be solved by implementing a native application as an example. Even if today we still have some of the problems, I think that in the future we will see more and more implementation of WebRTC in devices that can rid off of this problem. Another example is about network support. How devices can move from one network to another, from the broadband connection from my house to Wi-Fi, and then when I go out from my home, how I can support the same user experience, the same services in some of other networks. So we have to think about some of these devices, but those are not a stopper of implementing WebRTC devices, WebRTC solutions. Last but not least, thinking about SDK environment. What kind of benefits can I have if I'm going to implement a native applications compared to using a browser on my devices? So there are pros and cons. It's much more easier to use, for example, a web view in Android devices in order to implement a WebRTC connections. But I might be more flexible if I'm going to use a native application because I can access to all the features of that devices. So I can use a native application to control a robot. I can use a native application to receive data using the data channels and do some other fancy stuff. Again, my point is that basically there are some problems. We don't care about the problems. We can solve these problems. We can proceed and implement applications. And the way you can implement application is by implement a native SDK. I'm not presenting Oracle SDK. I'm not talking about XYZ company SDK or whatever. I'm just thinking in general. Adopting a native application for your device is the key if you want to have the flexibility and the capabilities to implement WebRTC applications. This is a typical browser implementation, but basically, thanks to the standards, we may have so many different implementation of WebRTC can work for Raspberry. Then we will work on Arduino, for example, or it's going to work on the new mobile devices that will release it as we speak by Samsung, for example. So one of the benefits that we need to have a library that binds the peer connection, the WebRTC native connection, in order to implement those kind of devices. And once we have this kind of SDK, then we might think to develop application on mobile devices. There was someone, you I think, was saying that these devices has so many WebRTC applications, but officially does not support applications. Nothing stops you to implement application. What you need to have is a native binding of WebRTC implementation plus a WebSocket library. In that case, I use it for example, for iOS application socket rockets. For another Android device, I might want to use a Tyrus client. For Arduino, I'm going to use something else. For Raspberry, I'm going to use, for example, GStreamers with Ericsson implementation of WebRTC. I don't know what it's going to do, but we have all the capabilities and features to implement nice application as we speak and try to promote WebRTC. Don't stop by the problems that we have seen before, video adaptation, codecs, what kind of codecs I'm going to use. Just go out and build stuff. And coming back to the discussion of the car, there was a nice joke about Henry Ford, who was creating the car. And there was a question asked some time ago to him, say, why you build a car, and what the customer, your customer, and people were asking. People was asking for fastest horses. And after a couple of years, they come out with a car. It's not what the people were asking, but it's the vision of individuals that brings benefits to the industries. Don't stop. Start now building your application, and we'll see what we will have in the next 5 years. That's it. Thanks for all the fish. This is a citation of the Hitchhiker's Guide of Galaxy. If you know Douglas Adams, he's a writer. He was thinking about the dolphins be the most intelligent species in the earth, and we were basically slaves of that dolphins. So that's it.
Thank you. We've got time for a few questions on non-WebRTC devices or the comment about SDKs for different platforms. Oh, gentleman there. If you could, there's a microphone coming, and if I could ask you to give your name, please, would be helpful.
Name, ID.
Exactly, yeah. Credit card details, yeah. Mother's maiden name.
Yes, on one of your slides you mentioned libjingle. Have you had any work with trying to integrate any success using libjingle to interact with WebRTC applications?
Are you asking the question to Oracle or to me?
To you.
Yes and no. Not directly, indirectly, yes. Thanks to my company, can I say? Thanks to my company, but I'm not here to talk about Oracle. We may want to take the conversation offline. I don't want to touch any Oracle products today. So,
thank you.
I can talk about database. Anyone interested in database?
You can talk about everyone else's products, it's not your own.
Well, it's still a big family, you know.
There's a question there.
Damn, too many questions.
Hang on 1 second.
Credit card details.
Yeah, the thing is, we're brought. This is going out on the web.
Write down the credit card,
So
please.
if you have the microphone.
It's important to have the credit card information. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm from Korea, and my name is Thomas Jung, and we are trying to implement a non-WebRTC device also. So we are uploading WebRTC library into IP camera now. But the main problem is the WebRTC library is too big. I mean, library size is too big, so sometimes IoT device and the IP camera has a very small size memory or hard disk. So don't you have any problem about such a...
We do have a problem. That's the reason why implementing WebRTC on Raspberry devices is so complicated that as of we speak, as far as I know, it's very complicated, it's not officially supported. There are these devices that have low memories, low horsepower, that is completely difficult to implement a full native applications. As we speak, I don't have an answer for that. I'm expecting that by the end of this calendar year, we will have a solution to handle those kind of difficulties, especially for sensor and device like that. Man, why I have so many questions?
Popular speech. Interesting, yeah. Keeps everyone alive as well.
I'm joking, you know.
Hi, Daniel.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
I got a microphone.
Yeah.
I'm in charge.
Yeah.
My question is more related. Okay, web was quite popular because it was not really fragmented from the point of view of the clients. Okay, you had like 2 or 3 options to implement it. Do you think we'll end up in more or less like 2 or 3 couple of stacks of
Yes.
WebRTC? Because otherwise fragmentation will bring a nightmare. So if everyone is deploying a different one for different, like embedding it in a device, I'm sure we'll get in a lot of troubles. And the user experience will be quite poor migrating from one device to another. So you think will be a fragmentation problem, or you don't expect to happen?
My personal opinion, again, my personal opinion, not Oracle opinion, is that we will see fragmentation. It's inevitable. We will see fragmentation. We will see different stack. We will see different specification. As we see at the beginning of the web with the war between Netscape, Internet Explorer, and so on. We will see kind of a competition, like a soccer competition, when someone will finally win and will be the predominant implementation. But fragmentation, at least to my view, is inevitable.
Yeah, till then will be a problem and will decrease the power of WebRTC, do you think?
The power of WebRTC is not in the technology. It's not rocket science, WebRTC, at the end of the day. The power of WebRTC is the way you implement WebRTC. So fragmentation does not decrease the power of WebRTC. Also because I do think that with giants like Google, Mozilla, Mozilla, and all the others, no one can stop WebRTC. Only us that we don't want to implement services on WebRTC, we can have the power to stop because nobody's going to use it. Hope to answer your question. More or less.
Last question here.
Okay. Mohammed? Sorry,
I was here,
hope
didn't do anything.
Okay, Mohammed here. My question is basically related to more of the use of WebRTC because I'm a developer. I develop applications which are based on WebRTC. We have currently we have Chrome, Firefox, and other browsers which are supporting the WebRTC, and we are building the web applications based on their implementation. So my question is rather.
Our implementation?
Yeah.
You say on our implementation?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. My question is basically related to Daniel's question. Is kind of opposite. That for the developer, we will can we expect that eventually we will have all the browsers or sort of all the web platforms have the WebRTC support by natively, so we can try. It's sort of something like Java. What happened to Java? That they have the JVM for every platform. Once you just set up a JVM there, and you can run any Java application, and you can really get used to it. Your application will immediately start running on it. So similarly for web platform, WebRTC, is there any hope that it will be supported on mobile devices, on other devices that we can, without worrying about device and its natives and everything, we can develop in peace that, okay, it supports WebRTC standard, okay, fine, and we can just build an application around it.
That's a question for vendors, not for me. But basically,
you see any future like that for WebRTC?
it's depending how you define futures. Futures next year? No. Future
No.
in the 5 years? Maybe.
Right.
But when it comes to Java, it took a lot of time before everyone was including a Java in the operating systems. Now we have operating systems that try to get rid of Java, like Apple.
Yeah.
So it's an old story. I mean, every vendors, every implementation try to take advantage of that technologies. We've seen happening in the HTML with some specific tags only working for Explorer, not working for Netscape. We will see, my opinion again, it's not our opinion, we will see again this happening on the WebRTC because every vendors, every companies that has to do with WebRTC try to get some advantage compared to the others. So we will see that. Mm-hmm. That's my personal opinion.
My view would be we'll get to 80% fairly easily. The last 20% will be hard. And then it comes down to...
Isn't always the last mile the hardest one? I'm close to reach to the top of the
And-
mountain and then...
Just as an example, for example, the Firefox guys, they released the OS, Firefox OS, which has the native support for WebRTC, at least what they told me yesterday when I was on their install. They told me that it has native support for WebRTC, so I have a native platform with native support for WebRTC, and I don't need to worry about what would be available to me, what would not be. It's natively supported. I don't, need to ask or do special libraries to pact with my application and ship with my application and then start worrying about the licensing of that library and so on.
I think we will reach to this point, but again, people will provide, at least my opinion again, people will provide the basic WebRTC implementation, and then each of the vendor will apply a special colors to this WebRTC implementation. Then if you choose, for example, Samsung device, that will have a nice blue color plus this and that. Compare it to Firefox, who provide other devices. I think this is inevitable. people, we will reach a common basis, but then each of the vendor will probably, my guess, add some extra feature to sell more devices.
Right. Okay,
Great.
great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.